You're what's up, guys? What? What's up, guys? Happy Thursday, August 5th, 2021. My girlfriend has gimmick infringement problems. I'm gone. Happy almost end of the week for those of you that worked that Monday through Friday. And today, you got some all-day baseball to sweat. I put up a little poll on Twitter last night asking if you guys wanted a recorded video as a first look on the main slate, the main slate, or if you wanted me to tackle some of this early stuff. And the majority ruled this early stuff. So we'll do that. Quick plugs here, rundfs.com if you guys want access to my personal spreadsheets that I've coded and built and designed to expedite the daily research process and make the decision-making process as efficient and fast as possible. I definitely invite you guys to come check it out. RunDFS.com. Get signed out. Try a week pass. In addition to access to the spreadsheet, you will get access to my personal player pool. You don't have to use it. You don't have to do anything, but just say, okay, that's who he's on. He might know his thing, or he's a complete dodo bird, and I don't want to play what he's playing. That's cool, too. You also get access to the RunDFS.com and VIP Discord. It looks a little something like this. We have channels for everything. Last night was actually kind of fun. Apparently Gossman has a baby narrative. Last night was kind of fun, but also kind of brutal at the same time. One of our long-term members, Fish Fanny, every day he's shooting 150 in the minimax somewhere. He was actually in first place in the minimax for much of the night. I tweeted about it. He fell to second place. He had Max and Ohtani, and the only guy that really could have caught him was a guy that had some Astros, and namely Carlos Correa. 2.3% on Carlos Correa. At the time, he was like 10 points back or something like that. And Joe Kelly came in and struck out, I think, Brantley and Altuve. I think it was those two. And then Correa came up. Correa flied out to foul territory. Cody Bellinger gets a beat on the ball, reaches over to grab it, and a fan interferes and catches it. But I think by rule, the fan has a right to the ball if it's in the stands. It was, but it was still catchable by Bellinger. Bellinger isn't able to catch it because the fan grabs it. And then Correa homers right after. Baseball's a cruel sport, so my boy lost $1,500 on that play because the very next thing was a homer. But shout out to Mr. Agony, who had such an apropos name to take that extra $1,500 from Fish Fan. But that was funny. But anyway, sweats like this. So every now and then we're sweating. We've had a couple of 100K winners. We got Always Be Blazing, who's been 2 million makers since December. That's just nuts. $1 million each time, and a handful of 100K winners. So we got guys grinding every single level, balling on a budget or popping bottles. No matter where you are in your DFS journey, you're invited to come be part of the gang. It is a fun community. Every day before lock, we do a pre-lock voice chat, kind of shooting the breeze, making some lineups, and making fun of Raj. Anyway, let's jump into today's slate, brought to you by PrizePicks.com. If you haven't tried PrizePicks yet, sign up, use code GUNDACKER. They will match your first deposit instantly up to $100. $20 turns into 40, 30, 60. You know math. I don't. Sign up is a good way to expand your DFS daily spend, your diversification financially. Several nets out there will catch more fish, and you're already doing the research. And you can isolate specific players, specific props, not just for baseball, but you can bet for baseball. Example, K props, out props, fantasy point projections, total bases, stuff like that. So if you're already like a guy for DFS, and maybe you're playing him DFS, but he's not always the nuts because of the variance, but he hits a double, you can make money off the double and just create more ways to reward your research. We have a slate on FanDuel and DraftKings. FanDuel's actually split this early slate up into two slates, an early slate, or a very early slate, and an early slate. DraftKings looks like they have one main early slate. It is pretty spread out. So a couple of housekeeping notes, some strategy notes. Notice the time differences between the first game and the last game. We got the Red Sox and the Tigers at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Then the next game's an hour later. Then the next game in Coors an hour later. Then the next game 30 minutes later. And then the last game like 4 hours after the first game locks. And because these are daytime games, you're not guaranteed to have full access to the confirmed lineups by initial lock. So if you are multi-entering, it may be a little bit of a nuisance to keep tabs on that, but it could also be a lucrative opportunity if you have software, if you have a tool, an optimizer that allows you to late swap optimize your lineups and adjust accordingly, or even if you're just hand building 5 to 10, you can kind of go through as lineups could confirm, because you're just looking for 5-10 minutes every hour to adjust. So I do think a lot of people are going to go after this first game that we're about to talk about, but it could be a leverage strategy to kind of pace yourself, or at least understand that maybe there's a couple of guys here and there that fall into lineups that aren't actually in the confirmed lineup, and for whatever reason, persons at work or whatever, they couldn't adjust. But let's get into it. 6 games total. Tigers hosting the Red Sox. If you want good luck, hit that thumbs up. That's the only way. If you don't do it, there's no good luck. Tigers hosting the Red Sox. Martin Perez up against Tariq Skubal. We got a 5.3 implied run total for the Red Sox, 4.8 for the Tigers. I want to preface my analysis on these pitchers right now by saying the pitching pool overall on this slate, especially for DraftKings when you have to choose 2, extremely shallow. So we're going to have to approach pitching, at least rostering pitching, with a pretty open mind, because I do think there is a world where 10 to 15 DKP from that SP2, we've seen worse, but 10 to 15 DKP is going to be acceptable today, because of how rough on the surface pitching is. Of course, Aaron Nola is at the top here. He'll likely be the ace of the slate, the most sought after guy. But past him, it gets pretty shaky. I think Alex Wood will trend pretty heavily, but he's 9.6K. There's definitely a world where he gets 15 DKP and is still an optimal pitcher, or at least still able to give you a puncher's chance at the top of tournaments. Joe Ross also on the slate. He's hit or miss very much so. And then guys like Merrill Kelly, Tariq Skubal, and even Antonio Senzatella, not guys I would normally play, might have to be viable today if you're trying to fill out 100, 150 lineups. So approach pitching, at least rostering pitching, with an open mind, and you might even open up that optimizer to allow one bat against your starting pitcher on this slate, just because we might get a little freaky with that SP2. With that said, I like the offenses in this game more than I like the pitching. Martin Perez taking on Tariq Skubal. Martin Perez, 19.3% K rate to righties, 18.4% to lefties. He does have a 3.58 xFIP to lefties. That's cool, but this Tigers lineup is going to come out pretty righty heavy. Akil Baddoo, the only projected lefty as of now. Everybody else righty or switchy to bat righty. So we're going to really isolate Martin Perez's 4.7 xFIP to righties, 300 average allowed to righties this season, and a 1.73 home run per 9. I will say on the road that has improved. That 301 average drop, if we look at just whole sample size versus lefties and righties, 257 overall, and a 1.13 home run per 9 on the road, but still an elevated amount of everything allowed to righties. So I don't hate getting invested in Jonathan Scope. Eric Haas is my top 2 guys if I'm trying to seek out some power. Miguel Cabrera's flexed his muscles lately. And then if I have to stretch out even further, maybe Robbie Grossman. And if Akil Baddoo did hit the leadoff spot, sure, chip in a chair on that. But if I had to really rank Tigers, it's probably one Haas for power, but positioning and value for the position for Jonathan Scope might put him over just based on him batting second. But those are the 2 I'd be looking at for some power. Eric Haas right now actually has a 1. OPS against lefties, and almost half of his hits against lefties have been doubles or better, including many home runs. So Eric Haas is going to project extremely well in the bomb detector. He's got a 4.33 rating. I would assume there's only one guy greater than him on today's home run model, and that's going to be on the other side in the same game, former Tigers great JD Martinez, 4K on FanDuel, 5,500 on DraftKings. Tariq Skubal, while he does possess a lot more strikeout potential than Martin Perez, he gives up bombs to righties. A 2.5 home run per 9 so far this season to righties, 3.24 last season against righties. So if you can get around his 1 and 4 K rate to righties, he has a 4.53 xFIP and a 47.5% fly ball rate. JD Martinez has entered the chat. 322 average since the beginning of last year against left-handed pitching, a 322 ISO and a 1. OPS. Not striking out very much, with a 4.35 rating on the bomb detector. Taking a peek at that bomb detector, You guessed it, JD Martinez at the top, right above Eric Haas. And then guys like Hunter Renfroe, Xander Bogaerts also in the mix. So already I think this game's going to look very, very tempting for fantasy purposes. Grain of salt with that statement, though. This is a night, day, back-to-back. Sometimes you see some wonky lineups. Sometimes you see different catchers. Sometimes you just see Sunday lineups on a Thursday. So maybe these lineups look a little bit weaker than they look right now. But it's hard not to like this Red Sox team, especially the power bats against lefties. Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, and Hunter Renfroe are popping for power. And I would definitely never leave out Kike Hernandez if he's leading off here, especially against a lefty. So Red Sox looking extremely viable. I think because of what I said of how shallow pitching is in 150 lineups, I probably allow a little bit of Skubal just because there are some strikeouts in his game, but it's not going to be much, and I would be way more invested in the Red Sox. But I would also have to assume, just thinking the slate is going to be pretty invested in the Red Sox. Maybe not so much as much the Tigers with Coors on the slate. I do think the Tigers would pick up probably top 4, top 5 stack ownership, but the Red Sox have to be pretty high up there, all things considered. Backing up Tariq Skubal, one of the league's worst bullpens, creating 9 quality innings of at-bats. But like I said, if you think you can get 10 to 15 out of your SB2 today, and you think you can get that out of Perez or Skubal, by all means, man, give it a shot if you're going after 100, 150 lineups. Let's move on to the next game. Rangers hosting the Angels. Little note, Shohei Ohtani pitched last night. It is a night, day, back-to-back. We have seen Ohtani take very few days off as of late. This lineup is really, really bad, and they need him. And for what it's worth, mathematically, the Angels are kind of in a stone's throw of the wild card race. So maybe they're still, Joe Madden in the squad, still out there trying to grind wins out. And it's a winnable game against the Rangers. Spencer Howard on the bump for the Rangers. Dylan Bundy on the bump for the Angels. Both pitchers are going to be working with pretty low pitch count projections. Dylan Bundy, if we look on his side, at 6,200. Last game, he got up to 72 pitches, 4.1 innings. So maybe we can push that to 80, 85. That was following 15 pitches against Oakland in his previous outing. He is a guy that is a starter, but there had been a stretch where he was not being used as a starter. So not quite sure what to project him out pitch-wise, but 70 is a good sign that he could get 80+. And 80+ pitches against the Rangers at 6,200 could be chip in a chair territory for that 10 to 15, and that's a cheap 10 to 15 if he can give it to you. Definitely comes with risk, especially against left-handed hitters. A 4.99 xFIP to lefties, 18.7% K rate, 280 average allowed, and 2.17 homer per 9 so far this season. The lefties, the Rangers don't have a lot of menacing lefties, but we have seen some power out of Jonah Heim lately. Nate Lowe projects okay, but the rest of his lineup is not fantastic for power. And he's also not locked down against righties either. A 205 home run per 9 to righties. So Adolis Garcia also exists. So it's going to be pretty elevated risk-reward spot for Bundy, but I almost don't think the reward is that elevated. I just think if he gets 10 to 14, 10 to 15, he's viable. And because of that, where I can see the world where he does get 10 to 15 and the Rangers kind of get their solo shots, that's where I would think about unlocking, allowing a hitter or maybe two, but probably one, just to feel okay against my starting pitcher, because it might come to those type of decisions to allow your lineups to really just accumulate points the way we want them to. So unless you think he gets completely shelled, that might be something to think about if you're toying with your optos. Spencer Howard, much like Dylan Bundy, I can't project him for a ton of pitchers, but I might actually project him for less pitches than Bundy. 45, 42, 39, 53 pitches in his last 4 appearances. We did see him get up to 67 in that Dodgers game. So maybe there's a world where he surprises us, but for the most part, I'm really not expecting more than 4 innings, which might be 2 trips through the lineup on the positive side. The thing is, I don't know that necessarily immediately removes him from contention to make my player pool, and the reason being, this projected Angels lineup has a ton of strikeouts. So even though he's not particularly a big strikeout guy, he can still get him, and he can still fall into him. 26% carry to lefties so far, 23.2% carry to righties, and he does have an 11.2% swing and strike rate. So even without being win eligible, getting into to that 5th inning or something like that. Could 4 innings and 5 strikeouts or 4 innings and 4 strikeouts be enough at 5,500 to get me to that 10 to 15 threshold that I would accept on this slate out of the SP2? I think it's possible. So I wouldn't eliminate Howard at all, and I would treat him like a Coors bat at 5.5, right? Can I get home run points there and hope for the best and maybe use that as a way to get Aaron Nola and maybe also get my high-end Red Sox bats and still have comfortable salary elsewhere? But it's really not even about the salary. It's about the position scarcity. So I don't hate some Howard. If I want to pick on Howard here, he has allowed an elevated average to righties and an over 1.2 homer per 9 to righties. Again, not a ton of power inherently on this Angels team, especially from the right side of the plate. Justin Upton kind of leads the charge there. The average allowed is something maybe I look at for like a David Fletcher, but again, no power in his game, just a 0.078 ISO to righties. No strikeouts though. Another thing to watch about Howard that might scare us on minimal pitches is this walk rate. 13.8% walk rate to lefties, 13% to righties. Again, chipping a chair, dealing with fire no matter what, but there's a lot of strikeouts in this Angels lineup, and I've used Dane Dunning this week. I also went after some Jordan Lyles. That wasn't as pretty results-wise as Dane Dunning, but it just shows you how this Angels lineup creates that range of outcomes that, you know, a guy that you don't project for high strikeouts could steal some strikeouts here. So 5.5K, you can give me some Howard if I'm building 100, 150. Moving on to the next game, the Rockies hosting the Cubs. This game might be the second most interesting game, right? I think the Red Sox and the Tigers will have some steam, and maybe if this game's the first game and the Red Sox game is in this time slot, it's vice versa on the field ownership. But I could kind of see this game not having confirmed lineups by lock and people just kind of take the safety. Rockies have an implied run total of 6.2 runs. The Cubs at 5, so we're looking at 11, maybe 11.5 by the time you guys get this video. Jake Arrieta on the bump against Antonio Senzatella. Arrieta been really, really bad on the road this season. A 501 xFIP, a 17% K rate, 295 average allowed, and a 2.25 home run per 9. None of those good, and you don't expect that to get any better in Coors Field. He has a 4.97 Sierra, a 6.33 expected ERA, and a 1.66 WHIP, and just a 7.7% swing and strike rate. One of the few swing and strike rates I can think of that's actually lower than Antonio Senzatella. So there's not really a bet I would be against playing against these metrics for Arrieta. He gives up a high average and a lot of power to both sides of the plate. So sign me up for the Rockies, absolutely. Like I said, there might be some volatility and some variance in the actual lineup versus the projected lineup we're looking at now, but it all lines up pretty well. Cubs are bad. Rockies at home are still one of the highest scoring home teams in baseball. I think they're number 1 still. So can't really be off of them. And to further the Rockies argument here, the pricing this year for Coors has just been a joke on both sides. But look at this. Charlie Blackmon and Trevor Story, the only guys, really Trevor Story's the only guy over 5K. And on FanDuel, Jesus H, it's all 3K guys. So I can easily get to the Rocky stack and probably get to Aaron Nola and to just kind of give up a few punts. So I'm with that. I do like the thought here, and stay with me, of Antonio Senzatella. So if you're with me on 10 to 15, maybe out of the 2 spot on an SP2 on DraftKings being viable to win some tournaments, could Senzatella be that guy, huh? You're not that guy, pal. Could Senzatella be that guy? Let's look at his game log. At home, first of all, if we want to isolate his batted ball data, he's got a 55.1% ground ball rate at home, just a 4% walk rate. He's not wasting pitches, a 0.6 homer per 9. The average allowed is a little bit elevated. He's not pitching for strikeouts, but the xFIP's a little bit over 4. And this is a Cubs lineup that kind of is reminiscent of the Angels lineup we just looked at in terms of strikeout rates, right? Just Jason Hayward and Matt Duffy with sub 20% K rates against righties since the beginning of last year. Again, Senzatella not out here. Strikeouts not his game. Maybe steals a couple, and there's only a few high ISOs to get behind. And Wilson Contreras could be one of those guys that you look at on the night, day, back-to-back, where they sometimes rest catchers. Maybe Wilson Contreras has a rest day because the Cubs have literally nothing to play for, and Wilson Contreras kind of their only decent player. So Could Senzatella get us 14 to 16 DKP as a range outcome? Well, at home this season, he's averaging 11.6 DKP. Last couple games, 12, 17, 11, 11. What I'm saying is I'm not against playing a little bit of Senzatella. Of course, we'll have to play some Cubs just to fill out 100, 150 lineups, but Senzatella is not off limits in my mind if I'm creating this player pool right now, just because the volatility and the shallowness of the position that is the pitcher spot. I don't think I like Jake Arrieta at all, but that's because he already has a home run bugaboo, and there's really no redeeming qualities. Well, Senzatella has a high ground ball rate, and there's a world where he gets 5-6 innings, 3 strikeouts, and a win. So I'll have some. I wouldn't really like to get more than 6%, 7%. If I want to pick on him, the fact that he is a contact pitcher, daring you to make a play. Rafael Ortega finally up to 3K on DraftKings after dipping all the way to like 2,600 after an incredible start to his recent week. I don't mind him at all against a contact pitcher. And then also chipping a chair, man. Here comes Patrick Wisdom, 41% K rate. Almost half of his at-bats end in a strikeout. But when he's making contact, 17% barrel rate, 319 ISO against righties. Senzatella is going to dare you to make contact, and Senzatella's weakness has been home runs to righties, a 1.43 home run per nine this season to righties. So could be an opportunity for Wisdom to get into one. And again, Senzatella kind of justifying the thought process of allowing a bat or two against your starter. So I'll have some Cub stacks just because they are going to be 3 or 4 in terms of implied run totals. It's Coors Field, it's Senzatella. But in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I don't think I'm going to have 0 Senzatella in the scheme of this slate. So Coors Field, stack it up. Couple contrarian thoughts there. Speaking of contrarian thoughts and playing pitchers you don't normally play, D-backs hosting the Giants. Alex Wood up against Merrill Kelly. Keep an eye on this Giants lineup. Like I said, this is almost definitely a game we wouldn't have confirmed lineups by initial lock. Giants have some moving pieces and some variance potentially possible here. Mike Yastrzemski questionable for this game. Let's see if he makes the lineup. And then, of course, keep an eye on some of these elder statesmen making the back-to-back start. But this one's not as egregious as last night, I guess. Merrill Kelly hosting Alex Wood. Alex Wood has a 26.3% K rate to righties this season with a very respectable 3.66 xFIP, a 22% K rate to lefties with a 3.55 xFIP. He's actually performing better results-wise against righties. The K rate's higher, the average alloved's lower, and the home run per nine is actually lower. And that's good news because this D-backs lineup actually comes out pretty righty-heavy in terms of projected lineup. Only Cole Calhoun cracks this lineup as a lefty from projected lineup. It could be like a Josh Van Meter or something like that changes things, but based on the projected lineup, it's actually something that complements his strengths just a little bit more. Because of how shallow pitching is, like I said, I think Aaron Nola does run away with the most sought-after tag, with the most upside. But I think Alex Wood is going to be kind of trendy in his own right. I think 20-plus DKP is golden on this slate, and so far so good. He's averaging 23 DKP in his 2 starts against the Diamondbacks, and then just lately, outside of Houston, tough strength of schedule matchup. Look at some of these more middling teams, the Pittsburgh Pirates, St. Louis Cardinals, Arizona, Oakland. Like he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And at 9.6K, generally speaking, on an average slate, I'm looking for high 20s. But I think 20 plus is almost guaranteed to be a top 2 optimal score from a starting pitcher. So I'll take some Alex Wood, absolutely. But I got to imagine he's projected to be SP2 on the slate behind Aaron Nola, if not SP1, but probably SP2. Now let's talk about Merrill Kelly. He's 8,200 on DraftKings. I don't really care about salary and value, especially on these ugly slates when we've kind of conceded that we'd take less than usual from a pitcher. Could you see 16 DKP from Merrill Kelly serving a purpose? If you could, I think we put him in the player pool if we're trying to fill out mass entry lineups. 8,200 at home this season. He's averaging 16.4 DKP. We've seen him hit the 20-plus K rate the 20-plus DKP rate. Both those games against the Cubs before the fire sale. But even, stretching it back a little more, even a game against the Giants, 20-plus, against San Diego, 20-plus, Milwaukee, 20-plus. Like, there's a world where he lands in that 16-plus, but even 20-plus DKP, and he's just like a yucky name to click on. but I think he's in the pool for me. Not a fun matchup, right? Giants have been okay, but there's still strikeout potential. A lot of 20+% guys, a couple of 24 to 27% guys, and the pitcher spot. If I play him, don't die. If he dies, he dies. But if he doesn't die, I think he serves a purpose as an SB2 for me. So I think he's very much okay with being in the player pool. With that said, he has his weaknesses. Everybody does. I do, you do. Well, you don't. You're perfect. That's why you're watching this video and you're hitting that thumbs up. But Alex Wood and Merrill Kelly, we can isolate what their problems are. And with Merrill Kelly, it's guys, especially from the right side of the plate, that hit for average and hit for power. So, Chris Bryant might fare pretty well. If Buster Posey cracks that lineup, he might look well. Wilmer Flores, guys like that. But still, if he lives, I don't expect these guys to throw perfectos, but we're gonna have to accept mediocrity as a flat line, and hope for the best, and hope for the positive side of the median projection, right? And I think Merrill Kelly's somebody that is in the conversation for me. I'd probably high tier 3 him. Maybe knocks on the door tier 2, depending on how aggressive I want to be with tier 1s on this slate. But yeah, give me a little bit of Merrill Kelly. But easily, like we know what his weaknesses are. We pick on him with a power righty that can hit for average. So maybe some Bryant, Posey, guys like that. Alex Wood, his weakness is actually lefties. 266 average to lefties, 133 home run per 9. They probably don't put out any lefties other than Cole Calhoun, and Cole Calhoun does have a 220 plus ISO against lefties since the beginning of last year. So if you play him, you play him. But yeah, Alex Wood is probably going to be number 2 for me behind Aaron Nola, but I also kind of project him to be as such by the field. Moving on to the next game and the last game of the main slate. So we'll take a pause for the cause. Remind you guys that I will be live on this channel 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. If you guys want to join me, live chat would be pumping. We'll have a live research session, and it's a smaller slate tonight, so a little bit more laid back Cadillac Jack. You guys can vibe out with me, and then of course, if you want to continue the vibes, at 4 p.m. Eastern, at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, I'll be in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord, and keep the chats going. Phillies at the Nationals, 4:05 Eastern, first pitch scheduled. Again, another game that we probably don't see lineups confirmed for, but Aaron Nola is your projected starter here up against Joe Ross. This Nationals lineup has a lot of strikeouts in the bottom half. Carter Kieboom, Tres Barrera, Victor Robles, Joe Ross, and in the middle, Yadiel Hernandez. All guys that strike out 1-4 to 1-3.5. Nola's got to get around Soto, Josh Bell, and I guess Luis Garcia. Ironic that I made fun of this team yesterday and a bunch of who's that hit bombs, Kieboom, Garcia, but I still think Aaron Nola is better than the average pitcher, definitely better than what we saw yesterday. He has had some struggles lately, so if his ownership pushes 60-70% in single entry, I still kind of want that number in multi-entry, mass multi-entry, but in single entry, I might take the ease of access and hedge my mass entry with my single entry and kind of do the opposite, right? You have to rank them number 1 pre-flop, but post-flop, bad things happen to good people. And we've seen 17, 9, 13, -10, right? There has been some hiccups, but just his stuff is got the capability of being the best stuff on the slate, and I think that's the median range outcome. Just one game against. He didn't even play. No, he didn't play. He didn't start that game, so he hasn't actually pitched against the Nats yet. I don't know if that game got postponed or what, but it's listed here. Maybe he got like pinch ran for it, and the scores is picking that up, but I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah, so I think Aaron Nola is going to be your highest owned pitcher on the slate. If you want to match the field or go over the field in mass multi-entry, this is one of those spots on a short slate. I actually would hedge stack some Nats here, not only just in case all hell broke loose for Nola, but there's some chaos scenarios that could create leverage, and this is really contrarian, so please don't think this is tinfoil conspiracy stuff, but there's a lot of scenarios that could happen here, even if it's not just Nola doesn't have it and he gets beat up. Nola could maybe just go 5 or 6 innings, get yanked, and that Phillies bullpen has not been great. Nats could go off. What if something crazy happened and Nola his start gets pushed back or he doesn't start? Well, guess what? that game's, after the D-backs game, and now, their next man up for the Phillies is likely not a Nola-esque pitcher, and the Nats could kind of pay off some surprise stacks here, because 5,800 for Juan Soto against the number one pitcher on the slate, people are not really going to get behind that at a high clip, and the same for the rest of this lineup. So just because of that, I do like having some Nats exposure, but it's not matchup based at all. It's more so mathematical leverage based on what could it happen if all hell broke loose. And I think you don't have to do much. You don't have to give up much equity to do that, right? 4%, 5% of net stacks out of 150 lineups. I'm willing to give that up. There's probably a good chance I would get to exposure to every single stack on this slate because of how small it is anyway. So why not tip my hat to the team that's going against the highest owned pitcher? Just thinking out loud. I don't know for sure that Knowley is the highest owned pitcher, but I feel like he has to be. Joe Ross pitching for the Nationals. He has been okay, not great, but not horrendous. His numbers against lefties have some issues. A 4.64 xFIP to lefties, 26.7% K rate to lefties, 241 average allowed to lefties, and a 166 home run per nine. He's allowing a decent fly ball rate, 43%, and an elevated hard contact rate at 37%. Bryce Harper, Didi Gregorius got him one last night. All very, very viable. He's been a little bit more tougher on righties. A 3.65 xFIP to righties, 22% K rate, 220 average allowed, and the home run per nine dips to 123, 1.23 rather, not 123. A 50% ground ball rate, and the hard contact rate dips under 28%. So definitely one of the more talented lineups on the slate to navigate around, but the metrics say it's not a 0% range of outcome for him to survive at 8,800 and be a top 4, top 5 scorer. Obviously, I'm in on some Philly stacks here. Phillies have an implied run total of 4.7, so they're kind of in the neighborhood of being a top 4, top 5 projected team in terms of run total. So they're probably going to get stacked regardless. And behind Joe Ross is a very beatable Nats bullpen, but I wouldn't have none. This is definitely one of those smorgasbord type of slates where I'm just kind of cherry picking a little bit of everything, and a lot of my own stuff in my CSVs when I upload it will not necessarily be the most positively correlated, right? I'm going to have pitchers, I'm going to have stacks against the pitchers, I'm going to have some bats against my pitchers. It's just kind of one of those chaos theory slates. So I'm in on that. If I had to go ahead and isolate, shorten my horizon a little bit, maybe focus on single entry, on three entry max, 5 entry max, something like that. I certainly would try my best if I'm being super safe to go like Nola, Alex Wood, and then bat-wise, go target some of the top of the bomb detector. For me, it's going to be JD Martinez as a priority if he's in the lineup, and Hunter Renfroe. I kind of like that handcuff as a combo, and maybe even Xander Bogaerts to really juice out the correlation there. Eric Haas is going to project so well against a contact lefty that I feel like, how do you not? But let's see what that might let me do. If I go Martinez, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, dude, I really like this Brave stack. Xander Bogaerts, I guess Renfroe, and how do I forget Kike Hernandez, man? He's just right there leading off against the lefty. So if I put those 4 names in here with these 2 starters, I still get 2,500 per, and I can punt catcher to the moon. Looking at the bottom here, and I'm not going to take a calculated 0, but I've definitely done it before. Just kind of looking at somebody down here that might be active. There's a different maybe Andrew Knapp. I think he did well last night for the Phillies. Suzuki might make the mix. Kirk Casale if Buster Posey doesn't start. Trey Barrera, not going to play him. Jonah Heim's kind of interesting, right? I know his numbers since the beginning of last year not going to be extremely alluring, but how about his numbers in the last 2 weeks? A bunch of bombs here, and Dylan Bundy, definitely a guy that can allow some power to lefties. So 2,800, I might take that. And then if we look at this lineup, or if we look at this index pool, is there any 2K specials that are just glaring near the top of lineups, like really, really cheap at the 2K spot, just to pinch a penny or two? Tigers, no. Red Sox have a 2K Jonathan Araz, bare bonus to wrap around against a lefty. Let me see what his minor league numbers are looking like. That's if he makes a lineup. He doesn't look like an everyday starter type. Just out of curiosity. Could he draw a walk and have super positive correlation splits against lefties, regular season? at 159. So he's just a replacement, literal replacement level player. Adam Eaton's against a high walk pitcher at the bottom of the lineup. A couple 2K guys in the bottom of the Rangers lineup. Rockies don't have that 2K special today. Maybe Alcantara from the Cubs. Jake Hager got some run time, not to be confused with We the People. Jack Swagger. All right, so I don't know. You really have to do some. Victor Robles is kind of interesting too, because Robles is not immune to being first or second in that lineup. So maybe if I threw in a Robles, somebody like that, he's in that outfield spot, 2,500, first base and third base. I don't want to give a lineup away, but it's not that out of reach here. And if I had to cut one, maybe Xander Bogaerts at 57, I can downsize that for a more solid shortstop. So what I'm saying is, if the Red Sox tickle your fancy and you also really like Aaron Nola, Alex Wood, it's not that far-fetched to get to them. But if you give up that SP2 spot, whether it be Nola or Wood, and you go crazy with one of those bottom-end pitchers, right, the Howard, the Bundy, even the Kelly at 8,200, it opens up just enough, giving you 4K per. Even if you put Xander back in the mix here, there's room, there's wiggle room. So there's definitely a lot of short entry lineups that make a lot of sense. These might have some overlap in terms of it being a little bit more obvious to get to go this way, but I don't mind it, and this kind of same approach to the Rocky stack as well. So I'm gonna have some fun with that. Hopefully, I probably don't get to 150 lineups on this slate because I probably have to sleep and I have to prep for stream and yada yada yada. I'm not gonna have time to late swap lineups out, but maybe we'll throw some bullets in for single entry, 3 entry max. Hopefully, this video maybe stimulated some ideas for you if you're gonna navigate to it. Be sure to let me know on the afternoon slate how you're doing, and remember, today, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, we're going to be on this channel live streaming, talking about the 6-game main slate, having some fun. So bring your beverages, maybe bring some lunch, hang out with me. I'd love to interact with you guys in chat and talk some plays. I will see you guys on the next one, which is live. I love you guys. I hope you crush it. Have a good morning, a good afternoon, and I'll see you tonight. Good luck. God bless, and go win some money. Channel memberships are live. If you've got love for me, I got love for you. Earn your status as a baller, legend, or Hall of Famer, and get exclusive perks in this channel, like members-only video content, live streams, and rock those custom emojis and badges next to your name that you can flex in every comment section on this channel or in our live stream live chats. Memberships are the best way to show love for me, show love for the content, and make sure more content comes your way.